Welcome to Nexa, one central place. My name is Rob de Haan. I am a solution architect at Rabobank, and together with my colleague Michael Adelaar, I'll take you along the journey we set out to make our engineers happier. Having said that, you may not know Rabobank, but we are a major Dutch bank. We are located in Utrecht, and this is our office. Maybe more interesting than what the office looks like is what happens there in the IT space. It may sound a bit odd, but we sometimes consider ourselves an IT company with a banking license. Thousands of engineers organized in many teams across the organization. Our asset management system contains thousands of applications, and while doing their work, our engineers come across dozens of portals that all offer information or access to resources they may need. You feel the pain coming, right? That moment you realize you have no idea where to find your information, who's responsible for that application, where to get your resources, and so on. And for new joiners, this is even worse. And then there's compliancy, rules and regulations all over the place. And as a result of this, our engineers can spend up to 80% of their time on stuff other than coding. The infamous red tape that really makes them feel unhappy. So we asked ourselves, how can we make your life easier? Our mission is to provide our engineers with a unified experience that removes the red tape, allows them to kickstart and manage their application and be compliant all the way. Not by introducing yet another portal, but by standardization and automation to the max. Making everything available in one place so that you can take action when needed, so that you can then continue working in your favorite IDE, right? So to make this possible, 2 years ago, we set out to create what was then called Engineers Hub, the one-stop shop that delivers services to engineers and provides a streamlined engineering introduction. And after doing a market research and a POC, we decided to adopt Backstage as the portal layer for our IDP. A fairly new framework back then, but open and fully configurable. So one aspect of standardization is our own organization. At Rabobank, we have adopted a worldwide transformation to working agile called Simplify at Scale, starting with IT back in 2018. For simplicity, it means that we are organized in around 35 tribes, a lot of areas and even more squads. But knowing the squad, you also know the product owner, the scrum master, the architect, and so on. As for Michael and myself, our tribe is called Tech for Engineering. We work in the engineering journey area, and we are responsible for the service store team. And once we started, we identified 3 pillars to support our engineers: squads, service store, and service radar. Squad tells you who is in the team and what applications they own. Store allows you to kickstart your application and to other resources, and radar helps you to assure that your application stays compliant. And in Backstage, we implemented these as plugins that work together with the Backstage software catalog. This is a core feature whose main use cases are to help engineers manage their software assets and make all software and their owners discoverable. And while Backstage allows you to directly register components in the catalog, we don't do that. Software components are created either via templates or registered from external sources. Which means that data enters the Backstage database via so-called entity providers that live on the edges of the platform. These connect to the data sources and load the entities in the software catalog. For instance, our simplified scale structure is managed in Workday, so that is where we load the squads, areas, and tribes from. Users we sync from Entra ID, and before Engineers Hub started, we already had a custom-built integration portal called Rabobank Integration Catalog. One of the many portals I mentioned earlier. So what they did was decommission their front end and connect their backend to Engineers Hub. Our applications we load from Halo ITSM, and we have a data lake where we get adherence data. And having these data sources all combined in Backstage already makes a huge difference for engineers, simply because we make things findable. Especially squad information proves to be of big value. For instance, when you get contacted by a colleague, you can immediately look up the squad and the applications he's working on. Your application data is also there, including its compliancy status. And when someone reports an incident and your team needs to take action, you'll be notified with a direct link to the incident management system in Halo. So that's how we get our data into Backstage. Let's go back to the assets. How do you get your resources? Well, that depends on the type and on the environment. An Oracle database on-prem is provisioned for you, where cloud infrastructure components are provided as code that you will have to deploy in your own pipeline. And it also depends on the level of automation. Many platform teams in Rabobank already have fully automated provisioning in place, but some require manual steps. So we designed our service store where platform teams can offer their services no matter the way of provisioning and no matter the level of automation. Engineers can get their resources by selecting a day one operation, which means please deliver my resources to me and make it self-service. How? Let's move on to the store. So the store relies heavily on Backstage templates and the scaffolder plugin. And what you see here is a screenshot of a software template that we created for all platform teams to define their service offerings in Engineers Hub, which they can also do programmatically via their own pipelines using YAML files. Templates for day one operations are created by the platform teams themselves using the form builder that we customized to support self-service configuration of any type of provisioning, for instance, as-though pipelines, work items, or any REST API. When they are published in the store, engineers can then launch them and order their resources by triggering the provisioning process. So let's have a look at a simple flow. Here we have the engineer with the hat, goes to Engineers Hub and goes to the store. He looks at the resource he needs, for instance a Haan gateway or a Splunk index, and simply orders it by pressing a button. This is where the magic happens. The platform team's automation is triggered, the digital resource is provisioned, and part of that process is registering the new resource in the asset management system, which is then ingested into Backstage again via an integration layer, where it is displayed in the context of your application. So this is what we call the day one operation. And managing the resources is done via day two operations, also provided by the platform teams. But once you have your application and your resources, how do you stay compliant? Well, a large part of that lies in standardization. Platform teams must ensure they deliver compliant resources. We call this compliancy by design. And it should not matter where you use an as-though pipeline, a Haan gateway, an Oracle database on-prem, or a PostgreSDB in AWS. Platform teams deliver compliant resources and allow you to manage your application while staying compliant. And standardization makes that a lot easier. So does cutting back on the infinite configuration options. In Rabobank, this is part of a global project called Standardization at Scale. This is where things start to come together, where platform teams strive to deliver bigger packages of functionality known as golden paths. These golden paths are aimed at delivering bundles of resources, lowering both the effort and the cognitive load for engineers. For instance, we have a DevStack initializer that provisions a ready-to-use development environment consisting of an as-though repo, a scaffolded blueprint application for you, for your programming language of your choice, including compliant pipelines with policies and so on. We'll see that in a minute. So let's go to the demo to see what it looks like. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you, Rob. So let's take a look at our Nexta, our Engineers Hub. And the goal of the first page is to minimize your cognitive load and get you ready for the things you want to work on. So I can quickly see my squads, my applications, things I find interesting, but more importantly, it shows me that I have no red tape that I need to take care of, so no adherence actions, and there are no incidents on my application or on my name that I should look into. Additionally, there's a search bar that goes over all the different types of information Rob already mentioned, allowing me easy search over multiple data sources. So let's get to work. Yesterday, I was in contact with a team within Rabobank, and I don't really know where they're at or what they are delivering. So let me take a look at them. Here you can see the overview page of the squad, what they do, where they're at, what the members are, who the product owner is, etc., how to contact them. The true power of Engineers Hub is in context switching. So now I'm looking at the squad page, but I might not be interested in who the squad is or who the members are. I want to know what product they deliver. So through the relationship, I can quickly go to their application. Here you can see details on the application, such as availability, who the system owners are, what environments they have, all kinds of assignment groups, and even more interesting, I can see what resources they use. So this is part of my software bill of materials. This allows the squad to trigger their day-to operations from the context of their own application, but also allows the service providers to see who uses their applications. All applications are shown in the same way as this on the application page, but there's more. We also have all integrations within Rabobank listed. So these are all the APIs and API schematics within Rabobank where you can onboard. I'm not going to show you the schematics, but trust me, they are there. For the last part of this demonstration, I would like to take you into the service store. Here, all services are present, and you can quickly find what you need. In this case, I'm going to look at my own service, the service store. You can get descriptions, prerequisites, when to use, and onboard information. There's plenty of more information, also how they rank on the level of service quality that we defined within Rabobank. And there's, of course, the room to order it through their operations or to manage it. This concludes the demonstration. Back to you, Rob, so we can take a look at the DevStack initializer.
Yes, let's have a look at the initializer in the service store. We see it here. We see the day one operations available. We have a Java project initializer that will create a repository and scaffold a Java project, and it will create build and deployment pipelines. We also have a test initializer that we'll use for the demo because our policies will not allow us to delete the repo that we would create. So first, let us check to see that the repo indeed does not yet exist. If that is the case, we can go back to the template and launch it. So the first thing we do is provide it with the name of the repo that we want to use and select our application CI so that it will be registered to that application. Next is the location of the repository. So we select the RaboWeb test environment, we select an Azure DevOps project and provide a name. Then we have a few customization properties. We have an option to create a develop branch. Let's do so. And there's also the selection of the merge strategy. Next, we have an overview of the input parameter that we provided, so we can submit it. And what will happen next is it will trigger a pipeline that will create the repository, scaffold the project for the Java project, and it will start creating pipelines. So let's first check to see whether the repository has indeed been created. We do a refresh and indeed there it is, the repo including the scaffolded Java project. Going back to the store, if we now go to Azure DevOps, we see the initializer pipeline which is running and it is provisioning build pipelines at this moment. So we fast forward a bit and do a refresh, and then we see that the build pipeline is there. There it is. So here we see the pipeline that was just provisioned, including all the necessary stages and fully compliant. So this allows you to create it all in a matter of minutes instead of hours or days or worse. And that concludes our presentation. I hope you liked it. It was an honor being here. Please drop us a line if you have any questions. You'll find the email address at the bottom of the slide. So on behalf of Michael and myself, thank you very much for your time and attention. Bye-bye.